What is going on, Bucks fans? Evan Wanish here back at you with yet another video talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And today we are going to be examining a article that I wrote for BucsNation.com, which is also something that we do on the channel here. So it works out really good. We're going to be doing the players to watch for week number 2, preseason week number 2 against the New York Jets this coming Saturday. So, a couple of players on my players to watch for week 1 actually performed quite well on Friday against Pittsburgh. So, I'm curious if any of these guys will step up to the challenge or the occasion, I guess you could say, again and prove me right, I guess you could say, as a player to watch. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. First up on the list is quarterback Kyle Trask. Now, Trask in against Pittsburgh, the offensive line didn't do him any favors. Didn't. However, there's also some things he'd probably like to have back. Some throws, some plays that I think he could have made, done a little bit of a better job of. But I think it's very important for Kyle Trask to go out there and play well this time around. He's going to be with the starters. I say that with air quotes because you don't really know what type of starters we're getting. Are we getting Mike Evans? Are we getting Chris Godwin, Rashad White, Tristan Wirfs? Those guys playing make all the difference in the world. So I'm not sure if those guys are going to play. So we'll have to wait and see what iteration of the starters Kyle Trask rolls out there with. Regardless, he is going to get the first crack. And I think this is a do or die moment for Kyle Trask. Right now, the quarterback competition looking like Baker Mayfield's really starting to separate himself, especially with how they both performed on Friday night. I think Mayfield did himself a lot of favors on Friday night, and now it's up to Trask to respond. If Trask goes out and he doesn't play well, I think the quarterback competition could be over pretty soon. But if he goes out and plays well, I think this competition could be almost even, depending on how Mayfield plays, and Trask can really close that gap between him and Mayfield before the Buccaneers have to make a decision. I personally think the Buccaneers sort of want to have their quarterback one before the third preseason game. So this could be Trask like last legit shot to prove to the front office, to prove to the coaching staff that, hey, I deserve a shot to be the starter. And I'm very curious to see how he performs as he faces a Jets defense that's tough, but I think he's going to be looking to bounce back on Saturday night. The other name on the list is wide receiver Trey Palmer. Now, Trey Palmer might have been on this list anyway, but now with the news of Russell Gage being out for the season, he definitely has to be on this list because now Trey Palmer steps into a potential role that's going to be very major than maybe what he or anyone else expected for this coming season. He could very well be the wide receiver 3, and he played well against the Steelers, had the touchdown catch, of course, has played well in training camp. Burned Sauce Gardner during a joint practice with the Jets. Sauce Gardner, the reigning defensive rookie of the year. So, and one of the better corners in this league already. So that's really saying something for Trey Palmer there. Trey Palmer could have a large role on this team in 2023. And I'm looking to see if he can take all this positive momentum that he's built himself and continue to just build on it, right? Can you stack up another game here? Can you play well yet again? Where now fans are going to be looking at you not as, oh, Trey Palmer, it's a nice piece. Now you might be a starter. Like the wide receiver 3 in the NFL now is so critical. So I do think Trey Palmer is certainly an years try to figure out what they're going to do and how they're going to go about replacing Russell Gage's production in the lineup. They don't have a lot of cap space, so I don't know if a veteran is coming. So I think it could be as simple as an internal option like Trey Palmer. So I'm very curious and excited to continue to watch him because he's been a really good player for the Buccaneers. Now, next up, I have 2 players. I grouped them together because they kind of work in tandem. They kind of have to work together to make things go. And that is Luke Goedeke and Cody Mauch. Luke Goedeke at right tackle, Cody Mauch at right guard. Both guys started off fine against Pittsburgh, but as the game went on, I don't know if they wore down, I don't know if they got hot or exhausted, but they weren't as good as the game went on. They got sloppy. There was a few penalties. They got beat a few times, and they need to be better. And I know a lot of fans are really concerned about Luke Goedeke Cody Mount, I think they're giving a little bit more of a leash to. He's a rookie, going to right guard. I think they're willing to cut him a little more slack. As far as Luke Gedeke goes, I think there's a lot of frustration, and I know there is. I know there's a lot of frustration from the fans. I know a lot of fans are concerned with the right tackle situation for the Buccaneers. As said in the video talking about Luke Gedeke, I don't expect them to sign a veteran or try and replace him in any way right now. So I think you're rolling with Luke Gedeke and seeing how it goes. Just got to hope he can play well and boost his confidence. So both guys have to play a cleaner game on Saturday night, less penalties, don't get beat for sacks as much. Just I think they need to do it not only for themselves, for the fan base to have a little bit more confidence in them, because you look at these two guys, very likely that this is going to be the starting right side of the Buccaneers offensive line come week 1. So I think fans just want to be able to be comfortable with having both of those players at those roles. And Friday night in Pittsburgh, or Friday night against Pittsburgh, I should say, did not do much for fans' confidence in a guy like Luke Gedeke, who had already had a shaky rookie season and now follows it up with a shaky performance at right tackle. So look out for those two guys. And then the final guy I had is a guy who, if you asked me this time last week, probably wouldn't have been on this list at all. And that's Christian Izien, the undrafted free agent out of Rutgers, who Todd Bowles, after the Pittsburgh game, had said is the front runner for the nickel cornerback job, which really surprised me. I didn't foresee Izien coming in and playing this well at all. He has clearly impressed the Buccaneers during training camp and continues to. Now, I did even say in the article, which, like I said, you can go check out over at BucsNation.com, I said just because he's the front runner, there's still 2 preseason games left. He needs to be able to play well. So I am really going to be looking and keeping a close eye on Christian Izien. Whereas last week at this time, before the Pittsburgh game, none of us knew that Izien was the front runner for the starting job. So we didn't really maybe pay attention to him as close as we normally would. So now I'm very curious to take a look at Christian Izien in the nickel corner job, see how he does, and see how it goes for the Buccaneers, because they're taking a chance on a guy. They're trying to find an answer to a position that they've struggled with at times. Sean Murphy Bunting obviously departed for the Titans this past offseason. He was really up and down. So they're trying to find a solution there. And even before training camp, there wasn't a clear-cut answer. The guys like D. Delaney, Josh Hayes, Christian Izien himself, Don Gardner. So there was a lot of guys in the competition. But it's clear that Izien has really caught the eye of Todd Bowles. I mean, when you're saying that after the first preseason game, that, like, hey, this guy's the front runner after the first preseason game, that certainly is saying a lot. So I'm going to keep a close eye on Izien and see how he does in the nickel spot there. Like I said, that's all for the list. This is just my list, and there's a ton more players to keep an eye on. Obviously, Baker Mayfield, Sean Tucker, a lot of defensive guys. Like, there's a lot of players to keep your eye on, but I think these are some of the more notable ones. And if Kyle Trask wins a starting job, all of these players could very well be starters and play huge roles for the Buccaneers in 2023. So that's one of the other reasons I'm keeping a close eye on all of them. Let me know who you're keeping a close eye on Saturday night. Who are you looking forward to seeing? Please go check out my article on BucsNation.com. You can check out my other written work on BucsNation.com as well. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and talk soon.